Hello and welcome to the YouTube channel of mprugs.com. My name is Mike. I'm the moderator in the series of videos that is all about Persian rugs and handmade carpets from around the world. And in this video, this is actually a follow-up to a video that I posted last, the most recent video that you'll see, or if you review my videos, you can see the previous one I did. I talked about the differences in the Persian rugs and how they have evolved from using purely vegetable dyes, like in the older pieces, to using a combination of vegetable and commercial dyes that you will find in the last 30-40 years. And I used different examples of wool carpets as well as silk ones. And I've been getting a lot of emails and questions about them. And so I thought I'm just going to do a follow-up video. This is in response to a lot of your questions that I've been getting and comments. And it has to do not just with the Persian rugs and how they have changed over the decades, but really I wanted to show you two similar pieces, and I chose these two. It so happens that they are both pure silk, but the reason I chose these two is because they are both the same type of rug, the same size and the same material, everything as far as their source material, everything is the same. But being that these are perfect examples of how the carpets themselves have evolved over the decades. And this is something that is similar to, for example, people who are into cars. You will find that, I'll use an example, myself, my father loved older Cadillacs. He thought that the Cadillacs back in the 60s and 70s, oh my God, they were just the most amazing thing in the world. And being that he was originally from Iran, who immigrated to Germany in the early 1960s, he just fell in love with this whole concept of owning an American car. So he always raved about them. And then when we moved to the States in the mid-80s, he sees a Cadillac and he was just in love with them, especially the older ones. Me, on the other hand, I see an old car and all I can see is expenses, lack of air conditioning or comforts. You don't get a GPS on an older car. And so for me, I look at the cars differently. Some people are into older ones, some people are into newer ones. The same thing with the Persian rugs. In the previous video, I talked about how the older Persian rugs, like this Gom rug, the silk piece, this is made out of vegetable dyes. It's about 60 years old. It's a beautiful piece, but it is made differently. And I'm going to show you the differences when I get behind the camera, as I always do. So I've heard a lot of people talk about how they like the older rugs because they are pure vegetable. To them, they are more handmade-like. They know that as a result, there are some visible, not flaws, but differences that you don't find in the newer pieces. So I thought because a lot of rug dealers make a big deal about the older rugs and how they are more expensive and everything. And so I thought I'm going to show you a couple of examples. And these are not overly priced pieces. These are not the type of carpets where you have to win the lottery or be a very wealthy individual to buy them. These are a few thousand euros. These are well within what I would call affordable types of carpets, but they cater to two different types of rug fans. The person who likes the older pieces, as many of you are, you will not be too pleased with the newer ones. But there are also many of you who like the new rugs, you like the new designs, you like to see carpets, basically which are actually sometimes of a higher quality. The newer pieces are actually oftentimes much finer than the older pieces. And that is because of the way that the methods of weaving the rugs have changed. In the case, for example, of the pure silk, the Gome rugs, the old pieces were oftentimes made, like in this case, with the old Turkish knot. So you have older Gome rugs. I mean, I'm just going to use this piece right here as an example. You have a rug that has about 400 knots per square inch, but because it's a double knot, it's actually worth a little bit more than the new piece, which has about 700 knots per square inch. This, in the old days, even in the pure silk Gome rugs, they used to double knot them. I'm going to show you a little bit about it when I get behind the camera, but I wanted to first of all explain to you guys that when you talk about Persian rugs, a lot of it, especially with the high-end, the city rugs, a lot of it has changed over the decades. There are two distinct types of basically high-quality Persian rugs. There are the newer ones and there are the older ones. But to compare the two, that's like comparing an apple with an orange. Either you appreciate both, or you're going to appreciate one or the other. But I can, honest to God, I cannot tell you which is better, an orange or an apple. Because frankly, there's times when I like one, and then there's times when I prefer the other. So I wanted to first give you a quick introduction to not only what it is that we're going to be doing today in this video, but also let you know this is a follow-up to the one I did previously about the dies and the response and the questions that I've been getting from my subscribers as well as viewers. And so now I'm going to do, as I always do, I'm going to get behind the camera. I'm going to show you some of the details. And then, so I'm going to say goodbye to you. As I always do, I get behind the camera, show you the details, and then I say my goodbyes. So chances are you're not going to see my ugly face again, at least not for this video. So I wish you all the best and keep watching as I'm now going to get behind the camera. So I'm going to say my goodbyes to you now, and I'm going to be continuing here in just a second. So here I'm back again, and as I promised you, I'm going to do a quick follow details. And one of the things I want to point out to you when you look at the close-ups, take a look at the two horsemen. On the right, you have a new Gome rug. On the left, you have the older piece. But you can see in the level of detailing, and this is where the differences come in. This is a Gome rug which by the old standards was a very high quality piece. It was meant to be hung on the walls. In fact, it was the reason it is in such good shape that it's in. It was hung on the wall for many decades. But you can see, and I'm just gonna, when you look at the horse, you can see the difference between the horse, the body, the legs. Now look at the newer one. You can see the detailing. It's much finer. And the same thing with the horseman. You can see this almost looks like a painting, versus when you compare it with the older piece, the horseman, the details are nowhere near as crisp. And here I am side by side. You can see the two. There is obviously a big difference. The point is, this is new, this is old. This is vegetable dye. This is a combination of vegetable dye and synthetic, basically what we call the commercial dye. One of the difference between the two is that in the old days, you could not get these types of crisp colors. This did not exist 100 years ago. And what I mean by that is you look at some of the greens, not the older greens, not this olive green, but the crisp, the mint green. The same when you look at the faces. You see shading in the new colors and that you simply cannot find in the older pieces. Also, the dye has an effect on the silk. The silk, when you look at, and I'm just going to flip this over, when you look at the two silk qualities, you will notice on the left, you have the older piece, and you can see the knots very clearly. Whereas on the right here where my finger is, the knots, you have to be really up close. Now you can see it. And this is the difference. Both of them are, and I chose these on purpose. These two pieces are priced about the same. So they are not, I'm not exaggerating. What I did not want to do is I did not want to take a $15,000 rug and, for example, and compare it to a 5,000 piece. That's not what I wanted to do. So I deliberately chose these two pieces because they are the same size and because they are priced about the same. So that I am not, otherwise it just wouldn't be fair. But I wanted to show you, in the old days, you could not get this type of quality that you can get in the newer pieces. Yes, they did have older ones that had extremely high quality, but then the pricing is also accordingly just astronomical. And also part of the reason, and I'm just going to flip this over here on purpose. I want you to look at the silk of the new pieces, and you will notice how they simply, it's a different type of silk. The silk production has also evolved. You notice how this is almost like curly. This is what the pure silk, this is what was used decades ago. This is about 60, so this is 1960s. Then starting in the 1980s, the evolve, and you can still see some of the curly, the origin right there, but you can see how the silk has changed. Well, if the silk has changed and the dyes have changed, then obviously the rug itself is changing as well. So this is why I said there are some people who love the older pieces. They love the patina look and the feel. There are others who would, like me, who actually, I prefer the newer pieces. I simply like the crispness that you don't find in a lot of the older pieces. And to me, I mean, this is just my own personal preference. So I wanted to show you, again, this was as a follow-up due to the number of questions that I've been having. A lot of people, they have opinions which ones they prefer, and that's absolutely perfect. I think it's great. But I wanted to show you there are two different types of rugs, and it's really up to you as far as which you would obviously prefer. But that is not to say that one is better than the other. It just simply means that they are different products. And yes, they are pure silk. Yes, in this case, it's pure silk. Yes, it's the same rug, but you are looking basically at it's not fair to really compare them. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, feel free to look at all other videos with all the information and samples. Feel free to subscribe if you're into Persian rugs. I'm going to be coming back to you next week with another video. And so best wishes from all of us. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section. Visit us at mprugs.com or feel free to subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video next week. Take care. Bye-bye.